Welcome, everybody. You're certainly in for a treat today. Today's webinar is titled, How to Be a More Successful Introverted Entrepreneur. My name is Michael Haskett, and I'm thrilled to be co-hosting this webinar today. I'm the creative director at Durango Courses, where our experts condense their years of experience, training, and education into practical, fun, interesting, action-packed courses that provide real results. And in the next 60 minutes, our award-winning expert, Roger Haskett, will keep you on the edge of the seat with his tips, tactics, and secrets to make your introverted entrepreneur business a success. I'm going to flick over and show you Roger. He's live waiting. There he is. Hello, Roger. Give us a wave.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, Roger. He's waiting to give us the live presentation. Now, let's just make sure everyone can hear and see me okay. Right below the video is a box that says, have a question. Right in there, just click in yes. That would give me the indication that you're hearing me and seeing me, or seeing Roger live, and that everything's working well. Now, to help us with this webinar and make it more personal, effective, and interactive for you, please type in the answer to this one question. Tell us, do you identify more as being an introvert or as being an entrepreneur? So just type that in, introvert or entrepreneur, into the question box, so that we can customize this webinar specifically for you. Now, we do have a question and answer session at the end of the webinar, but feel free to enter your questions throughout the webinar in the have a question box. Sometimes we will answer these during the presentation and sometimes at the end, but we will answer every question before we close out the webinar. Now, while you're typing in your answers and I'm recording those, just a quick note about webinars and technology. If at any time throughout the webinar you experience technical difficulties, the screen freezes, you lose sound or picture, try refreshing the page or reloading. If that doesn't work, then close it out, go to the welcome email and click on the login again and come on right back to where we are. I want to say a quick hello just to a couple of people, Dominique from Arizona, Doug, Liz, Melanie, Carrie, all from the Great Britain, Erica from Houston, Tiara from Detroit, Rebecca from Florida. We have a lot of people watching today from all over the world, and a big hello to everyone. Okay, results are coming in. Tabulation is showing us that we're almost evenly divided today. Roger, so now you know 50% of the people, actually it was 55% introvert, 45% keyed in on entrepreneurs. So that's how you can customize our material for us today.
Great, great.
Good. Now, let's customize, or let's maximize our webinar experience. Just make sure you turn off your Skype, your email, your iTunes. In just a minute, we're going to go live back to Roger. And as we're doing this, webinars require a lot of computer usage. So turn off everything. Everything in the background, your email, your Skype, your iTunes, any extra programs that you have running. You can also put your phones on silent, close your door, put on a headset if needed, and give yourself the time to discover these new strategies. You're here for a reason, and we put in weeks of prep and time to deliver the best free webinar we can for you today. We don't want you to miss anything, and we promise to make it worth every minute of your time. And we do promise to keep our webinar to 60 minutes. We're not going to go over as a lot of them do. We will keep it right to 60.
60 minutes.
60 minutes. And at the end, stay tuned to the end because we have a really cool bonus. It's extra special, and I promise it'll be worth your time, so make sure you stick around. Today, Roger's going to give you some of his best material from his new course so that you can see what it's all about. Our goal is that you walk away from this masterclass thinking, holy cow, that's some of the best content I've received, and I'm ready to implement it. That's our goal for you. So our question is, get on the right slide. Here we go. Are you in the right place if you want to be a more successful introverted entrepreneur? If you want to learn the 3 introverted tricks to make networking more profitable and more pleasant, stress, learn how introverts use it to their advantage in everyday situation, and learn how to combine your introverted personality and your entrepreneurial talents. So let's introduce our expert, Roger. There's a couple pictures from, 3 pictures from Roger in his acting roles. He's an award-winning writer, director, actor, teacher, speaker, and an introverted entrepreneur. He has a BFA in acting and a master's in education. He's acted in over 150 films, TV shows, and commercials. and he's auditioned approximately 3,000 times over the last 20 years. Some of the shows that Roger has been in: iRobot, Supernatural, Stargate, X-Files, The Flash. Some of the people that Roger has worked with: Ben Affleck, Matt Dillon, Paul Giamatti, Shia LaBeouf, and Ricky Schroeder. Here's a look at Roger and his family. Look at that happy bunch there. 3 kids, nice wife.
Nice wife, great wife, great wife.
Great wife. Did I say nice?
Great wife.
Oh, Jenny, great. All right. So let's give a great welcome to Roger. Here he is himself, live and in person, our expert today, Roger Haskett.
So you guys, thanks so much for tuning in. I know everyone is busy, so we're going to hopefully pack this webinar full of stuff that you guys will find useful. But I want to point out right at the beginning that what we're doing here is really scratching the surface. There is so much information, so much detail of what we can do as an introverted entrepreneur to maximize our entrepreneurial side and allow our introverted side the power that it should have, that we're really only going to be talking about part of it. Really only scratching the surface. And I want to start by talking about my story. And I want to talk about my story because there's a couple of reasons. I often, when I tell people that I'm an introvert, most people don't believe me. They just sort of go, no, it's ridiculous. You are obviously not an introvert. I see you on stage. Like, I spend a huge amount of my time on stage on, trying to get in front of people. I'm a teacher, I'm an actor. And it wasn't, and I found it hard to identify myself as an introvert. Although when it sort of came back around to thinking about it, I was like, no, it's pretty clear that I am. When I was reading Susan Cain, reading stuff about introverts, it became very clear how much of an introvert I am. But I think of myself as an extremist. I think I'm extremely introverted in how I gather my energy, how I gain my energy is very introverted, but I expend my energy in very extroverted ways. So let me tell you my story. And this is how I sort of figured out that I had introvert characteristics that were part of my life. So for 24 years, I've had my company. I started my company a month after I graduated from university. That's how much of an introvert I am. Within the first month of graduating university, I had started basically 3 companies. So I really have introvert in my soul. My brother's an introvert. My dad's an introvert. I'm an entrepreneur. My brother's an entrepreneur. My dad's an entrepreneur. I'm an entrepreneur. It was very deep in me. But I started to notice a pattern after years and years and years and years. What I noticed was that my company was really sort of languishing. Every year, we sort of were making the same sort of money. And I was a solopreneur at that time, like I was just myself. And no matter what I sort of tried to do, it didn't seem to make much of a difference. I did everything. So I had an entertainment company at that point. So I did everything. I cast people, I wrote it, I directed it, I often was in it. I did all the costumes, I got everyone to the shows. I did, all of it. I marketed it, I sold it, I did all those things. You guys must understand what I'm talking about. You're an entrepreneur. And we do amazing things. What I would hear from my clients over and over and over again, I've got testimonials galore that say, this is amazing. Like, we've never seen anything like this. We've never had this much fun. We've never experienced something so alive and energizing. And yet I was not seeing any growth in my company. And I started to look at what was going on, like, where was the pattern? I saw the pattern was like this. This is what my pattern was. And maybe you guys recognize this. And we're only talking about one part of my pattern here. But my pattern was I would go to the show, do all the stuff in advance, sell it, cast it, blah, 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 all the stuff, costume, etc. We'd go to the show, do this amazing show. And at the end of it, I'd walk off stage and I'd think my job was done, right? I've done all this stuff. My job is over. And people would say, hey, Roger, let's go out for a drink afterwards. And I'd be like, no, thanks. I've done my job. I'm going to go home. I'm going to go recharge. I'm going to go spend time with my family. I'm going to go spend time with my small group of friends. I'm going to go do the things that mostly an introvert does. Like, I finished what I need to do. And now I'm going to go off and do what I want to do, what my body is desiring. What my body desired was to get away from it all, was to get away from all that pressure, all those eyes on me, all that energy that I was expending. I wanted to go back to where I could actually feel like I was recharging. And then, over the years, I realized these things weren't changing. And I started to realize that what I was doing was shooting myself in the foot, because we know that people choose to work with people that they know, like, and trust. We know that. It's marketing mantra number one. People want to know, like, and trust you. And people were trusting me. Of course, they were giving me money to put on shows. Entertainment is in the meeting world, in the conference world, is like dangerous. You don't know if you're going to get good people or not. So people trusted me. They gave me, a chance to do shows over and over again. But what I was denying them, and denying me as an entrepreneur, was the ability for them to get to know and like me. Because what I wasn't doing is socializing with them, which for most people is where they lock in their relationships. But as an introverted entrepreneur, I was somewhat foolishly thinking that my job was done. Like, when I finished my work, when I had done what I needed to do, and I had done what people paid me to do, my job was done. But as an entrepreneur, my job wasn't done. My job was starting, in a way, because what I really needed to do to grow my business was to go out with people afterwards and socialize with them, just have drinks with them, hang out, talk, become a person to them. But I wasn't really interested in doing that. I didn't see the value. And not only did I not see the value, or I don't even think value was an issue. What I didn't see was why I would push myself further to do something that was going to be really hard, because going and socializing with people and having drinks afterwards was actually hard, right? You're an introvert, right? So you should understand these feelings. So over 20 years, I looked at, my company, or, as I was getting to the 20-year mark in my company, and I started to go, things really need to change. And not small changes, but big changes. Like, there needs to be a big change in me. And I need to change the way I think about what my job is and where my personality fits into that job. So what I did is I started about 5-6 years ago. I started to change the way I interacted with people. I started to socialize as part of my job. I started to join associations. I started to go to associations and network and talk to people. The thing that is really challenging, we're going to talk about how to get better and make networking more profitable and more pleasant, because that's one of the things I had to learn. So what happened is that for 20 years, my company really was making the same amount of money, which was enough to sort of live on. Not really. I did a bunch of other things. I acted and did other things. So I sort of supplemented my income, but it really wasn't enough to be considered like a thriving business. And it certainly wasn't thriving because it wasn't growing. So about 5-6 years ago, I changed that. I started to do all these things outside of what I normally wanted to do. And I found things started to change dramatically. And then 5 years ago, I did something that was really hard for me. I brought someone else on to work the business with me. And I brought someone on to work with me. So they actually came into my space, and they were luckily in a different office, thank goodness, like in a different room. But they were in my space. And if you're an introvert, you understand what that means, like how hard that was, right? Like, I don't want people in my space. I don't want people there when I'm, trying to recharge or trying to think. I'm a writer. I spend a huge amount of my time inside my head trying to figure out what it is that I think and what I want to say, right? You're an introvert. You know what it's like to be inside your head. I didn't want to bring people into that space. And yet what I found over the next couple of years is that things changed dramatically for my business. And my business 3 years ago, my business doubled its sales. And then last year, we doubled our sales again. And this year we're looking to double again. I now have 3-4 people working with me. We've moved out of the top of my house, and we moved into an office, which is challenging because it's one office. So we're all in it, which I find really challenging. So what I tend to do is spend my mornings writing at my home office where there's no one around. And then I go into the office where I spend my time interacting with people, where lots of eyes are on me, asking me lots of things and demanding lots of things from me. And there I spend my time being mostly an entrepreneur. And then I come home where I can recharge and be around my family and be around my close group of friends, etc. So maybe you recognize some of those things, some of you in that story. So what I want to talk about is how we can help ourselves manage our entrepreneurial side, our entrepreneurial drive, our drive to share with the world something that is in us, and our introverted side, which is our personality, which sets the framework of what we do. So let's get into networking. Let's move into out of my story and actually into tips that I hope will help you. It certainly helped me. Okay, so the first thing we're going to talk about how to make networking more profitable and more pleasant. And more pleasant is really, really important. My company has its first motto. The first thing I say to people, the performers that I hire, the first thing I say to them when I'm hiring, and the first thing I say to them when we're going to a gig, and the last thing I say just before we go start our performance, our whatever we're doing. What I say is this: the more fun you have, the more fun they have. So this is something that introverted entrepreneurs really need to pull to themselves, like pull in tightly and start to think about. The more fun you have, the more fun they have. And think about how much fun you normally have at networking, or how much fun you have when you're doing your entrepreneurial jobs, the things that you need to do as an entrepreneur. What we want to do is figure out how to ways of pulling fun into us, because the more fun we have, the more fun the people around us have. And people who have fun with you start to know and like and trust you. This is a neuroscientific fact, actually. This is the power of play. One of the talks that I give is called The Power of Play. And I look at it from a neuroscientific point of view, because play is one of the most powerful things we have in our life that harmonizes our brain and body and pulls us into full engagement. So if you can figure out how to start having fun and how to play while you're doing your entrepreneurial job, you will pull power into your body. And that's what we want, because as an introvert, we need power to rise up at times and be bigger than our introverted self, right? We're an entrepreneur as well. And those two things, we're going to get into talk about this more. Those two things are usually in conflict. And so what we're going to be talking about is how to pull those into harmony. So the first thing is, the more fun you have, the more fun they have. Okay, this is like a Rogers rule. So let's get into 3 specific tips. The first thing is, when you're at a networking event, do not get trapped in small talk. You're an introvert. You hate small talk. If you're like most introverts, you hate it. I hate it. My goodness, what a waste of time. We're going to talk about sports or something that I don't even care about. The weather? Holy cow, what a waste, right? Instead, no small talk, only vital talk. That's the first rule that you want to be focusing on in network, okay? No small talk, only vital talk. What you want to do is focus on areas that are meaningful to you and to the person that you're talking to. This is super important. What you're doing in a networking situation is like harmonizing with the person that you're talking to. And instead of being like, I'm going to talk about this, which is meaningful to me, and then you're going to talk about this, which is meaningful to you, what we want to do is find something together that is meaningful to the both of us, really meaningful, vital. So you're introverts. You have usually very high skill sets in observation and analysis. So use that skill set in your networking. Really focus, observe the other person you're talking to. Ask them a lot of questions that open up potent areas in your life, areas that are full of meaning. So I'm a parent. I was going to say I love being a parent. I love being a parent, but holy cow, some of the times being a parent is, drives you crazy. But being a parent is something I find really meaningful. Movies are something that I'm really drawn to, so I talk about that. Often what I do is I talk about being uncomfortable. So if I'm, interacting with people at a networking event, some of the times what I find our vital combo is the thing that we both feel is around being uncomfortable. Like I'm like, hey, so do you like these type of events? Like do you love like meeting people like this? And usually, because almost everyone feels the same about networking, people be like, no, I find it really stressful or really, hard or really, so that's a great place to bond as well. But what you want to do is have stuff that you've got ready. So this is another thing that introverts tend to be good at: preparation. So before you go to networking, think of a variety of things that you find very valuable, very vital, very meaningful in your life. And then ask questions around those things to find in the other people what matches up, and then talk about that, which leads us to our second point about networking. Don't make acquaintances, make friends. This is another thing that introverts are very good about. Introverts do not like usually a wide ranging group of acquaintances. What we tend to like is a very close-knit group of friends. So what I suggest is take that energy into networking. I mean, you're not going to make these people your friends right away. And it depends, if you're only going to see them once, you're never going to make them your friend that way. Although I take that back. I made friends that way, so I take that totally back. But what you want to do is you want to make friends, and you want to have your conversation a deep conversation. Rather than going and talking to 30 people in a night, way better as an introverted entrepreneur, I believe, to have 7 really significant conversations. Conversations that pull you out of yourself and into something meaningful to you. One of the major planks of engagement, this is my company called Engagement Unlimited, one of the major ways that you create engagement is through meaning, something that's meaningful to the people. Like, you get engaged when you find meaning in what you're talking about or doing. So find the meaning and make friends through that meaning, right? Way better to do that than to spend, like, you know, an hour sort of superficially talking to a bunch of people that they don't connect to you. Introverts tend to not be so great in superficial situations. So don't live in superficial situations. Instead, demand that what you're doing is meaningful to you and the person who you're talking to, which is your job as the introvert. Your job is to find the way to pull yourselves into meaning. Let's go to the third point. Let's say none of that works. None of it works. You're trying to do that stuff. It doesn't work. Let me tell you this story. So I was in Vegas about to do a talk. So I've flown in, and I'm there about an hour and a half early, 2 hours early to set everything up. And everyone starts arriving an hour before my talk. And for some reason, I just could not get it together. I talked to the first person. It went, like, all we did was talk small, superficial things. I left that conversation after like a couple minutes feeling like I needed to have a shower. Like, it was like, oh, how painful. I went to another person thinking, I got to get this, I got to figure this out. I'm starting to fall into my head. And the same thing happened. I could not get out of my own way. I kept finding myself falling inwardly and going, I don't know, I don't know what to talk about. And I'm not sure how to talk to this person. I'm not sure what they want to talk about. Excuse me. So what I did is this. I looked around the room and I said, there's a guy over there who looks as uncomfortable as I feel. So I went up to him and I started the conversation by going, hey, how are you doing? Are you, is this like new for you? Are you part of this organization, this association? And he was like, no, this is my first time. And I was like, yeah, me too. I'm supposed to be the speaker and I'm feeling it's really, like, you know, awkward. And so we started to bond meaningfully through vital talk about what we were both feeling. And we started to bond over being introverts. Like, he was obviously an introvert too. He was like, I'm in sales. I just got a new job and this is the first time I'm in this position with these people. And I find it really challenging. Like, as an introvert, going and meeting people in these situations is challenging. And I was like, yeah, me too. And we had this vital conversation. And then someone walked by and I went, hey, wait a moment. And I grabbed this person and I brought them over to our group. And now we had 3 people. And I said, hey, what's your name? Hi, Catherine. I want you to meet Rob. Rob is, this is the first time he's here. Me too. And we're wondering, like, what about you? Are you part of this organization? She said, I've only gone, this is my 2nd meeting. And I was like, so do you know a lot of people? And we started to bond over the fact that we all really don't know anyone. And that makes us uncomfortable. Pretty soon we're laughing and talking, and then someone else walks by and I go, hey, come on over. And I introduce them to Catherine and to Rob. Soon we're starting to have a little bit of a lively conversation while people are sort of talking over and across. Other people are, like, having much more subdued conversations. We start spreading out and talking to other people. Some people come join us. About 7, 10, 15 minutes later, people are starting to sit down and find seats. I look over and Rob is in the group of 7 people that they're all moving over to get a seat. He's talking to people. He's having what looks like a great time. Me too. I'm now having a great time too. Catherine's over there. Wow, she looks like she's having a great time. So the number one thing you can do when you are in trouble, which for introverts is not far away from the surface usually, is help others. Now, neuroscience backs this up. Neuroscience has this very interesting, they found out through neuroscience that when you help others, you get more out of it than when you get help. Right? So let me repeat that. It's a little bit weird. We in neuroscience also teaches us that our social support network is one of the most important things that determine how successful you will be in life, how much support you have. But the kicker is this: it's not how much support you get. That's great. That's wonderful. We all need support. But the real value, the real energy, the real kick to your system comes when you help others, when you're altruistic. So use your powers of observation, use your powers of analysis, use your ability to be quiet in the midst of a lot of noise and see who needs help. See where you can help. And you can help through all sorts of things. It doesn't just have to be through helping people through talking and networking. So you can go help people set up. You can man the desk. Like, that's another thing I love to do. I found this out in high school. Like, if I'm responsible for something at the event that we're going to, I have something to do, which gives me something to rely on. And it allows me at any moment to be like, I'm here for a reason. I'm talking to you, but it's really uncomfortable and it's not going well. It's okay. Bye. I've got to go do something, right? So it gives you an in, it gives you an out. So that's what I suggest for you guys. Now, remember, we're scratching the surface. Tons of other things we could talk about: smiling, body language, tons of other things. But remember back to the first thing I said. The more fun you have, the more fun they have, right? That's the energy you want to go into networking with. Not just how do I survive, but how do I have fun here? Changes everything. Okay, let's move on to the next point. All right. I want to talk to you guys about the way you think about stress. This is another neuroscientific fact. So this is what is the case now. The way you think about stress determines its impact on you. Okay, they did studies. And what they did is they took the group of people that were under, relatively extreme amounts of stress. Like, we're all under stress. We're human. We're alive. We're under stress. But these people were people who were, experiencing in a year a significant amount of stress. And they split off half and they put them into the first half is the control group. They didn't do anything with them. They're the control group. They just go off and live their lives. But the other half, they took over and they said, this is what they did. This is all that they did. They took them over into another area where they were separate. And they said, okay, hey, you guys, it's sort of interesting, but we mostly think of stress as something that's negative. Like, oh, I'm stressed. Oh, I'm so stressed. I got to do a talk. Oh, I'm so stressed. I'm an entrepreneur and an introvert. That makes me stressful. I got to go deal with staff. I got to deal with clients. I've got to deal with consultants. I've got to deal with sales. I've got to, all these things you got to do, right? It's stressful. Oh, it's stressful, right? That's a normal human response. They said, well, guess what? You don't have to let that be your response. It turns out that stress is actually there to help you. Stress is simply a way for your body to harness its resources on the task at hand, which is important. That's why you're getting stressed about it, because in your life, it's important. So it's harnessing all your energy, all your resources to help you be a bigger, better, more present, dynamic version of yourself in this stressful situation. So isn't that interesting? Stress isn't necessarily bad. Some stress is really good. And then they showed them this graph, or we're going to show you this graph, which actually captures this, which shows how stress actually is great. It leads to peak performance. You need stress if you're going to get to peak performance. But the moment you go past that point, things change and the stress increases and your performance takes a huge nosedive, right? So what we want to do is keep yourself on the side of stress that's positive, that's uplifting, that's filling you full of energy. And so that's what they told these people. That's it. They just gave them that information. That's it. They come back months later or a year later, and the group that, the control group, 30% of those people, 30% had life-threatening illnesses, serious illnesses like cardiac arrest type challenges in their life in that year, 30%. How many do you think of the group that they just told them information? That's all they did. They didn't give them things. They just said, hey, maybe you should think about stress a little differently. Maybe stress is your friend. Guess how many? How many? 30% over there? How much in this group? Well, the answer is zero. Zero. It's almost unbelievable. It's like magic, right? Because If you change the way you think about stress, you change the way it affects you. You change its impact on you. Isn't that amazing? And what the best thing you can do to keep yourself on the good side of stress? Remember I was talking, there's the good stress up to peak performance, and then after that it gets very bad. Well, it turns out that if you just think about stress being good for you, that spot is farther out. So if you're thinking what I'm experiencing now is actually helping me, lifting me up for the things I have to do on a daily basis, if that's what you're thinking, guess what? Your peak performance stress point moves. It moves further away because you have a different energy around stress. So the second major point, we talked about networking. This is the second major point, is the way you think about stress determines its impact. And introverted entrepreneurs have a ridiculously intimate relationship to stress. Don't we? Don't we? I know I do. And if you don't, hallelujah. Because introverted entrepreneurs, and this is what we're going to get into our third point now, you've set yourself up for a little bit of challenge, haven't you? You've set yourself up for a little bit of conflict, huh? Because your introverted personality and your entrepreneurial drive are often hitting into each other head on, like they are in conflict. So we want to talk about how to change that energy into this energy, so that rather than feeling the pain, the stress of constantly being asked to do things that are outside your personality, because that's usually what an entrepreneur has to do, we want to figure out ways of harmonizing that. We want to figure out ways of creating a situation so there's harmony in your life. Now, this is going to be, it's not going to harmonize immediately. These are all things that take work, right? But although you're an introverted entrepreneur, so you shouldn't have any problem with work. Work should be part of your life. This is the thing. We as humans have a superpower. Okay, we have a superpower in that we can have one thing going on at the front of our body, on the exterior shell of our body, and we can have a totally different thing going on the inside. You can have, crazy chaos in the back of your head going on, alarms, battleships, cannons are going off at the back of your head, while the front of your head is desperately trying and often successful in not showing any of that. This is a superpower that humans have, that we can live a dual reality, that one thing could be going on inside and a totally different thing could be going on the outside. So we want to grab onto that superpower as an introverted entrepreneur and use it to our advantage. Now, we all know this. I believe we all know this deep in our soul. Like you're at work, and you're deep in analysis or strategizing about how to do a new marketing plan, or how to create, a better system for what your, whatever it is that your company does. You're deep in, the stuff that introverts love to do: inward, internal thinking, strategizing, figuring things out almost in full before you put them back out into the world. So you're in the midst of doing that and loving it, and the phone rings and it's a client, or someone who's a potential client, and you are going to have to put that introverted side away, I imagine, and pick up the phone and be an entrepreneur, whether you want to or not, right? I mean, this is what human taking on roles is all about. Whether you want to or not, there are times where you have to say no to part of who you are so you can say yes to a different part of who you are. Think of it this way, you come home from a really challenging day of work, and introverted entrepreneurs often have challenging days of work, right? So you come home and the only thing you want to do is put up your feet, put on the TV, maybe grab a drink. Maybe you want to, talk to your significant other. Maybe you just want to play with your kids. Maybe you want to go to a movie, whatever it is that you've got in your head that this is just what I need. Maybe you need to read a book, that's what you're looking forward to. And you open the door, and instead of quiet or the ability to do that, you're overrun with your kids who are screaming and crying, and your significant other goes, look, it's your turn to take care of these kids. I am out of here. I am so frustrated. And you have to choose, am I going to be a parent right here and do the things that a parent needs to do? Or am I going to say, screw it. Sorry, everyone. I need to do what I need to do over here and put up my feet and have a drink. Well, in those situations, once more, you are being asked to make a decision about what part of your personality, what part of your life is going to rise to the surface. So this is what we want to be using as an introverted entrepreneur. The idea, the knowledge that we can take on a role that represents a part of who we are, but not all of who we are. Just like when we're a parent, it's part of who we are. Just like when we're, in church, it's a part of who we are. Just like when we're friends, that's a part of who we are. Often it's most of who we are, but it's often not all of who we are. A human superpower is that we can have different things going on in our body. Now, I'm an actor, right? Like, this is my life, right? Like, I went into acting because I wanted to figure out how to manage this internal conflict I had, like how I could manage having this overwhelmingly powerful inner world, which most introverts have, an overwhelmingly powerful inner world, how I could take that and still match it up with the stuff that I wanted to put out into the world, because I've got things to tell the world. I've got things to share with the world. But it was really hard for me to do that in an introverted way, especially because part of my personality is to get up on stage or get in front of a group of people as a teacher and to help guide them into a direction that I want to go, or I want them to go. And so I did this because I needed it, because I needed to figure out, I learned how to be an actor because I wanted to figure out how to manage my inner world. So what I want you to do is this. I want you to start a log, take a log, and we're going to provide you with the materials to do it, like, with the paper and the spreadsheet, et cetera. And what I want you to do in the course of a day is just to write down on it when you're assuming a role. And by that, I mean a role that represents part of who you are, but not all of who you are. So, like, now I'm answering a sales call because I've got to do that. Now I'm talking to one of my staff, having a performance review. The last thing I want to do is go into that room and have a performance review, because that's stressful and there's a lot of pressure on me to perform in the performance review while I'm giving it to other people. I would rather stay in my office, close the door, and do some writing, but I have to put that aside because it's time now to go to the performance review. So I want you to make a log of how many times in a day you actually are putting on a role, because I think you're putting on a role all the time. And if you see that is your life, that you actually are capable of, on an ongoing basis, putting on a part of your personality while a different part of your personality recedes into the background, I believe that you can also manage your introverted entrepreneurial self so that you can raise your business up to the level it really should be at. And it's not hampered by the personality that you have, which is often challenging. As an introvert, it's often challenging to step outside yourself and be an entrepreneur. Okay, so I want you to follow the log, do it so that you can see how often this is possible for you, so that you can make it possible when you want to do it, so that your choice determines which side is taking precedence, still supporting both, but which side is taking precedent here. Because you're not ever going to get rid of being an introvert. I'm an introvert. I recharge on my own. Like, that's not changing. I love my time reading, writing. I love sitting in my own head. That's not going to go anywhere. And why should it? There is so much power that introverts have that the world is waking up to. We don't want to squash that in any way. What we want to do is give the introvert side the power when it needs it. And we want to give the entrepreneurial side the power when it needs it too. All right, Michael, I think we've got some slides that will pull those up.
Yeah, we do. Just let me throw in something here, Roger, because remember that story I told you about Brian Tracy? Years ago, yeah. I had I'd gone over to Vancouver and I had paid lots of money to go see Brian Tracy. For those of you who don't know Brian Tracy, he's like Zig Ziglar or Tony Robbins, motivational speaker, normally to do with sales performance. He would stand up on stage quite often for 2 hours, take a 20-minute break, and stand up again for 2 more hours. And this one time I was there in the audience and I was watching him taking notes furiously because his material was just so impactful. And at the end of it, he said, anyone who has any questions, I'll sit down at the end of the stage and I'll answer them for you. So now this is two-pronged. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because this is how he increased his income. So what he did was he sat down on the edge of the stage and I got in the lineup. There was probably 3,000 people in the room, and there's probably 100 of them who got in the lineup to talk to Brian personally and ask a question or a comment or something. And I got in at the very end. I'm an introvert. I don't like the crowded areas, so I just sort of hung back, got at the back, and I was paying attention to what was going on. And as I'm moving forward, I can see Brian closer and closer. He at the time was probably 40 years old. And the closer I got, I thought, holy man, this guy's going to pass out. This guy's actually he was sitting down. I didn't think he was going to last until I got there. And I'm watching him and going, he just put on a 4-hour show, nonstop basically. And he was almost dead to the world. But here he is answering these questions. And then it occurred to me what was happening, because I looked behind me, and at the back of the room, they were selling his cassette tapes, which his courses were on. That was back in the day. When
we had cassette tapes.
Back when we had all these other things. So as he's answering questions, people are hanging around and buying his material. So when I got there, I said, Brian, I said, you're a little tired, and he said, yeah, he says, this is my job though. He says, the more questions I answer, the more you guys buy. And he wasn't like obnoxious, and he wasn't hiding the fact. He was just making a valid statement that what was happening was that his job didn't end when his talk ended. His job ended when everybody left the room with his material in his hand. So what he encouraged people to do was go and buy the cases. You'd come over and he'd autograph it for you. Guess what I did? Right. I did that exact same thing. Went over, and at the time they were like $150. They were not inexpensive materials. This is now many, many years ago.
Yeah.
And so just exactly what you just said, Roger. Here's an example of this guy who's all done his job in theory, but not in practicality. His job is to sit down at the end of the stage. And so what a wonderful lesson from this guy who showed us that it doesn't end when you think it ends. It ends really when the day is over, and the day is over only when everyone's left the room.
Right. Case. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. And the other thing, before we get summarizing, the other thing we want to be talking about here is, and what we're going to be showing later on and getting into more detail, is we're interested in transformation. Like, I'm interested in transformation. I'm an educator, right? Like, I believe in the power of transformation. I believe in the power of education to transform people and to transform people. So what we're looking for is a way of transforming your life, so that instead of there being this constant conflict, and we're going to later, if we have time, talk about the dentist story, introverted entrepreneur story. Instead of being conflict, we want to really create more harmony. We want to create more harmony in your life, so that you have a happier life, a more fulfilling life, a more pleasant, more wonderful life that's also tied to a company, your company that is doing as well as it possibly can. That's what we're looking for, a way of harmonizing your personality and your entrepreneurial drive, so that you can transform the conflict that you have into a much, much happier, more successful lifestyle. That's what we're looking at. All right.
Exactly. Let's recap, Roger. So I'll recap quickly here. On this current section, make networking more profitable and more pleasant. How do you do that? No small talk, only vital talk. Don't make acquaintances, but make friends, and help others. Very, very straightforward information.
Yeah, lots more where that came from.
Exactly. The way you think about stress determines its impact. Use stress to your advantage in everyday situations, and understand how it's called a Yerke-Dodson chart. Understand how optimal stress is your benefit, not your negative. So, Roger explained it in a number of different ways. Very important material.
This is like mind-blowing stuff. Like, this is stuff that's coming out of neuroscience that really is changing the way we think about the way humans move through the world. There's this really interesting statistic. In the last 5 years, which is now like 6 years, in the last 5 years, 90% of what we now know about the human brain and the way humans move through the world has been discovered. Like, in the last 5 years. So everything that we knew about the way humans move through the world and the way our brain interacted with our bodies, all of that information like 2010 has been squished down to 10% of what we now know. We're living through an explosion of information about how best to be a human in this world, and how best to be your specific type of human in this world. So that's what we're talking about, sharing that type of information that will really transform our lives into the type of lives that we want to have, not the type of life that we think we have to have, but the one that we want to have.
Excellent. Third section we talked about was combine your entrepreneurial talents and introvert personality to create success. Take on a role, keep a log, then use the acquired knowledge and understanding to play the best role in each situation. And we do, as Roger mentioned, we do have a log we're going to provide to you at the end of this presentation. So why did you show up today? Could it have been that you're tired of getting the same results from the same effort? You want to increase income and profits? You want positive results fast? You want to reduce your stress at home and at work? And you're ready to move up to the next level.
Yeah, like I want to throw in here in terms of positive results fast. Like, you don't want to do what I did, which was take 20 years to really figure out what it is that I needed to do. You want to turbocharge your growth, and so that you don't have 20 years of pain and anguish as you're going up to what it is that you actually need to do to live the life that you want. What you want is to turbocharge that so that your the positives start to pile up and the negatives start to fade away. That's what we're looking for.
Excellent. So it's time for you to become a more successful introverted entrepreneur. It's your time. And this is bringing us to our brand new course specifically designed for introverted entrepreneurs, titled Winning Strategies for Introverted Entrepreneurs. It's a video course, how to thrive at home and at work.
Which is really, really important at home and at work. I find it very challenging when people talk about how to improve your business, how to improve your career, and then they never talk about how this works for your home life. Like, what is the purpose of having a successful career and a crappy home life? Like, what would be the point of aiming for that? We want to aim for happy in our home life and happy at work. And if we're not aiming for that, you need to change your aim, because you get what you aim for. This is goal setting 101. If you don't frame what you want properly, you will get the wrong thing at the end. So you want to make sure, as an introverted entrepreneur, you want your inner world and your outer world in harmony as much as possible. Not just your outer world or not just your inner world. We want both. And that's the thing to aim for, not to like go, I hope. That's the thing to go, I demand. I demand to have harmony at home and at work. That is what I work towards, because what else would you bother working towards, right?
Right, exactly. That's why it's part of the course title, exactly. Roger's rules, which we discussed, help you achieve success sooner, help you accelerate your journey, help you increase your productivity, your creativity, your income, and your profits. More passion, more interest, more enthusiasm, and use stress to your advantage in everyday situations. Dave Lieber is the Dallas Morning News columnist. He had to say about Roger, he was by far the best speaker. I was amazed by his fun sense of humor, and most important, how much I learned from him. I implemented his tips immediately and saw a noticeable improvement in my business. Terry Brock is a Hall of Fame speaker. For those of you not familiar with Hall of Fame speakers, this is not a tag that's handed out loosely. There are not very many of these people in the world. This is one of them, Terry Brock. Brilliant, lots of great value. Roger combines a mega genius mind, which you begin to see today on this webinar, with superb acting skills and delivers a practical, powerful message to his audience. I was glad to get there. There's a story behind this. He almost missed the presentation because of a number of flights, but anyway, he got there. He was thrilled to be there. This course is the ultimate shortcut to how to be a more successful introverted entrepreneur and how to combine your introverted personality and your entrepreneurial talents, both at work, as Roger mentioned, and at home. It's a joint venture. They go together hand in hand. What's included? 7 core modules with 17 advanced video trainings, 7 support guides to lock in your learning, a bonus video walking through the door, the really interesting video shot of Roger discussing how walking through a metaphorical door, but actually walking through a physical door, on stress on one side and perception and reality on the other side. You got to watch it. It's incredible. It's I don't want to say it's mind-blowing, but it sure gives you an insight into a common stress factor for a lot of people. live question and answer video conference, which provide for people to get their feedback directly answered.
Yeah, this is really important too, because introverts tend not to speak their mind until they know exactly what their mind is. And even then, they tend not to speak their mind. I mean, you know, every introvert is different, but in general, they tend not to speak their mind in groups very easily. This is a group session so that you can hear other people's questions and learn from their questions and learn from their responses, and pull together a group so that you actually have a little support. Remember what I said, that the number one factor that neuroscientists are identifying, or social scientists are identifying, as the predictor of success in a life is how much social support you have and how much love you have, really. That's what they're talking about. We want to create a system where we have a little bit of love, right? Where we have some people who got each other's backs, who are looking out for each other. And that's where this comes in.
Excellent. Excellent. Good description. These are the module titles. Roger was going to go over these.
Oh, yeah. So this is where it started. These are modules. Like, so these are the video modules. This is where it started. This is me, and it's probably you too. The birth of Roger's rules and what that meant and how that changed my life. Then we start talking about specific rules, like get comfortable being uncomfortable. Whoa, that is something introverts would be good to learn, right? If you're an introvert, you are uncomfortable in very specific situations. That's not going to go away very easily. So you got to learn to get comfortable in those. And there are ways to do that. Fight to be positive. This is super important, that you got to fight to be positive, because our normal human response rate to stress, normal human response to stress, is negativity. This is something that has been proven over and over and over again by neuroscience. Negative is normal when you're stressed. It's not a sign of weakness. It's not a sign that you've got a character flaw. It's not a sign of your introverted personality exerting yourself. When you are stressed, you are negative unless you choose to fight back. We are all liars. This is my point about human superpowers. We are all liars. We have the ability to lie, and we want to use that. We want to use that ability to be like, I'm pretending to be someone that I might not be right now. I'm pretending to be fully an entrepreneur, when really I'm an entrepreneur who's got an introverted side. We're going to teach you how to use that to your advantage. The way you think about stress determines its impact. So that, and we're going to delve into that much more and talk about that. The power of play, very, very important. There is so much power in play. And if we can harness that to our lives, think about how much better your life would be. Like, wouldn't it be nice to be known as the person who brings the play factor to your world, to the people in your world. And being an introvert does not mean that you can't play. Like, what a ridiculous thing to think. Of course, introverts play. And of course, introverts can play, which means you can, and you can therefore harness the power of play for yourself.
Annie White sent in Roger, give us a quick rundown on this one.
Yeah. Annie's a writer. She listened to a talk I gave for about 2 hours, and she sent this in afterwards. She said that every single time she had to do a book reading, she, spent a month beforehand super stressed, like the kind of stress, like, waking up and vomiting in the middle of the night, not being able to sleep, that type of stress, shaking, while she's doing her reading. And so she, listened to me for 2 hours in a session, like not in my videos where she could listen to them over and over again, just like 2 hours in a speech. And she said this: I followed many of your suggestions and found to my amazement that I was not even nervous, which was completely opposite to her every other experience she had had. You had an enormous impact on me and my ability to achieve this lifelong goal. Thank you, thank you, thank you. This is what I'm hoping to, I believe one of my roles on this earth, one of my reasons for being here, is to help people make their difference in the world. And I believe that I help people do that by helping them get out of their own way. Okay.
Excellent. So the question is, can you afford to wait 5, 10, 20 years? That's the question. Consider what would happen in your life if you were able to become a more successful introverted entrepreneur. Would that mean, and I'm going to scroll these up for you, but Roger, we've got maybe a minute and a half if you want to slide in your dentist story here. I think this would be a great time.
Perfect. Okay, I love this story. So I'm giving a talk. It's my second talk to a dentist group, but it's a different group. And just minutes before I start my talk, these two people like scurry into the room, like, like they're trying to hide that they're there. And they go right up to the front row, which is weird because there's no one in the first 4 rows. So I walk over to them and I go, hey guys, what's up? And immediately the guy, it's a guy and a woman, middle-aged guy, middle-aged woman. And the guy gets up and leaves. And the woman laughs. She goes, the reason we're here is, I'm like, what's going on? Why are you guys here? And she goes, the reason we're here is because of him. He's walking out of the room right now. And she goes, he's my husband. I'm a dentist. He's not. He listened to you last year and came home a changed man. He listened to your talk and came home different. My whole life with him has been one series of challenging, stressful moments because he's an introverted entrepreneur and he's constantly, I think I'm late on time. Yeah. So he's constantly having this problem, like waking up in the middle of the night, stressed about going in to talk to clients, talking to his team, talking to Bullet. Like he's constantly stressed about being forced into an entrepreneurial role when he really is an introvert. He listened to you for a speech and he came back a changed man. In the last year, I saw him change. He's become a happier person. Our home life is so much happier with less stress. He doesn't wake up in the middle of the night having these fears anymore. He's changed because of the things he's put into practice based on what you said, Roger. Introverted entrepreneur, life change. This is what I hope to offer to you.
Very powerful. Very, very powerful. VIP bonuses. We have 2 VIP bonuses. We're going to get into the price right away. Bonus 1, neuroscience video mini course for introverted entrepreneurs, a series of 5 amazing videos that deal with neuroscience findings that are just going to blow you away, literally. VIP bonus number 2 is the first 4 people registered from this webinar will get a 30-minute Skype personal one-on-one coaching call with Roger. Obviously, this is incredible value. You get to talk to Roger directly about whatever it is that's relevant in your life, business, home at that time.
Yeah.
What's the investment for this course? $197 today plus 5 installments of $197 to follow. There's the link down there, and just in a second, I'm going to put the link in so you can click on it. The people that are looking for the first 4 people, this is date stamped. So as soon as I throw up the link there, it's just a time factor. If you're an action taker, off you go. We'll be here when you come back.
Do we have our guarantee? Because, most introverts want time to think about things. The challenge with thinking about things is the more you think about them and the farther you are from what you're thinking about, the less likely you're going to take action. So we want to take that pressure away. We have a total money back guarantee, 100%. If you can go through the whole course, you can use it to change your life. And if you can still say, I didn't find it valuable, we don't care. We'll give you your money back. I'm not interested in making a bunch of money off of people who do not change. What I'm interested in doing is helping the world change. That's what I find valuable in my life. So if you're worried about whether this will provide value for you, don't worry. 60 minutes, 60 days, we don't care. You don't find it valuable, you don't have to pay. We will give you your money back.
Very clear, very concise, very accurate. Excellent. This is the page you're going to go to. There's the link at the bottom of the screen, and it should be coming up underneath your video in just a second. You're just going to fill in your name, first and last name. Then over here, you get a choice. You can do the payment plan, $197 for now plus 5 other, or you can do $997 and save $185. Your choice, whichever way it works out. We just had, that was the first one take off. So we've only got 3 of the fast action bonuses available, just so you guys know. This is the home page. This is what's going to come to when you go to the course page. Welcome with your
Norman.
Name. If your name's not Norman, we'll change that for you. There's the course outline. We've got our bonuses down at the bottom here. And that's what you'll see. Very simplified, very easy format to run through. Every time you go to a new module, the videos are on there. Each module normally has 2 or 3 different videos broken down. Milos, let's do this one real quickly. Roger, you want to go through this one?
Roger's a true talent. It was awe-inspiring watching him. He was literally bursting with energy, and the entire room captivated with intensity and charisma. I would not hesitate. Blah blah blah. The interesting thing about this talk is just before going on this stage, I was falling into my head. I was literally doing the normal thing that introverts do, which is starting to go, "What am I doing here? Like, who am I to do this? I'm going to get up in front of a bunch of people. This is super stressful. What am I going to be doing up there? And yet I use my system to deal with that problem and get on stage anyway, because what's happening to you the moment before you get on stage doesn't actually have to impact what you're doing on stage. Although neuroscience teaches us some very interesting things about how to control your 2 minutes before you do anything stressful, and how in that 2 minutes before you walk into a room of stress, you can pull a certain type of energy in with you.
Great, thanks, Roger. So below the screen now is the link for those of you who haven't activated it already. It's there and ready to go. We're wrapping up. We're just coming up to top of the hour. We've already gone over what's included, and lifetime guarantee. We didn't talk about unlimited lifetime guarantee, step-by-step training. But I wanted to get to this section quickly. Stay tuned to the end. Remember I said that at the very beginning for a really cool bonus. So here's the link. durangocourses.com/C2 Masterclass Support Guide. It's also linked in right below the video now. You just have to click on it. And this is a support guide that has clear, easy to implement action steps to follow based on what we've just talked about in this webinar. So everything we've talked about, there are the action guides, there's the steps to follow. Very straightforward. Now, I had a couple of questions that come in. It's just hit the top of the hour. We promised we would answer these questions, so we appreciate everyone for hanging on if you want to listen to these answers. If not, go over, order, come back. If we're still here, we'll be talking about these questions. Roger, I'm going to do this because someone's asked me on the question box. They want to know who the heck I am. Yes. So I'm going to stop because normally you said very clearly at one point, there I am. Introverted entrepreneurs. Here's an introverted entrepreneur. I'm not on screen. I like being off screen. So here I am. That's my claim to fame, and I'm going to get back to the presentation because someone just asked. I thought that'd be fair to show that.
And Michael's my brother. I don't know if we said that. Yeah, we mentioned that already. Michael's my brother. He's my older brother. I hope you can tell.
Well, on that fast shot, we'll see. All right, let's cover a couple of these really quick questions because people have asked about these. At the first question you've already answered. It was from Tammy. Can I order next week? And Tammy, I'm just going to simply answer. You can order whenever you want, but the reality is, statistically, if you don't order now, life is going to get in the way tomorrow, the next day, the day after, and you're going to find out that you're not going to have the opportunity at the time to come back. So you can order anytime you want. No pressure. The reality is, people that take action now will get those results down the road. And the fact that the guarantee protects you so that there's no risk at all involved in ordering now. How long is each video? Cindy asked this one. The answer is the shortest video is 5 minutes. The longest one is 20. Each module is broken down into 2 or 3 sections of different videos. And so we've broken out the videos so they're bite-sized pieces of action so that you're not watching a 30 or 40 or 50-minute video, but we've broken it down into sections with support guides for each video or each section so that you can follow along. Sarah asks, how long is the membership for? Currently, Sarah, the membership is lifetime, although we are looking at moving that to a recurring monthly fee. So now is the best time to do it.
Yeah, like I mean, if you buy it now, you don't have to worry about when we change it down the road. You'll have lifetime access. Yeah,
you'll have lifetime now forever. And Tori asks, oh, this is a great question. I have a rough time dealing with stress. Can this course actually help me?
Yeah, well, the answer to that is yes. The answer to that is yes.
Yeah. Roger, let me tell the real quick. I know we're just past the hour. Let me tell the story really quick. I have a friend who runs franchise outlets, 2 of them, and we titled his story "How to Get the Barf Out of Leadership," how to get the barf out of ownership, how to get the barf out of entrepreneurship. Because what happens is he rates his week on how often he actually goes into the bathroom and throws up based on the stress load of the day. And so he'll come home and his wife will say, hey, honey, how was work? He said, oh, it was really good. I only threw up once today. Or at the end of the week, he'll rate it and say, how many times did I throw up? I threw up 5 times, once every day this week. That was his stress level. The reason he was doing that was he didn't have an outlet. He didn't have a way to deal with the stress. So he started to look at these rules and react to them, and found out that the stress was something that he could deal with. He could manage. He could work around in such a way that he didn't have to go in the bathroom. And so, Tori, you have a hard time dealing with stress. We can understand that. We've got people that have gone through the same, probably the very similar situation as you. And a lot of it is learning what techniques and tricks to do to alleviate that or to deal with it in a different manner?
Yeah, I mean, I live in stress. My whole life is wrapped around stress. I'm an introverted entrepreneur. I'm constantly stressed that way. I'm on stage all the time. I'm stressed that way. I write things that I expect other people to say and do at a highly professional level. There's a lot of stress in my life. I created these rules so that I could learn how to have a happy, fulfilling life with the stress that I have. I don't like, it's not like we're saying we're going to teach you how to eliminate stress. You're not going to eliminate stress. The trick is to figure out how to have a relationship with stress. And that is what we are going to do. That's the transformation that you will get through this course. And if you don't, get your money back. Really, if it doesn't help you, we don't want it. We only want money from people who are actually going, wow, this made a difference in my life.
Great. Excellent. One more question and then we'll cap it off at that. Kelly writes in and says, can I share my password with other people? Kelly, no, passwords are for individuals. If you're looking for a corporate or a business program, just send in an email to support@durangocourses.com. I'll get that email and I'll answer your question directly. But the memberships are individual. If you want corporate or something, we can certainly work with that for you. Okay, we're all finished on our webinar. We've answered most of the questions. Any questions that you've submitted that haven't been answered, I will answer them directly. Sometime before the end of business today, you will get an answer from any of those questions that we just didn't have time to cover on the webinar. So I want to thank you for your time showing up today.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, obviously, if you watch through the whole webinar, this information probably relates directly to you. I would suggest you take advantage of the opportunity, get the course, go through it, see how it works and how it applies for you. You're covered with 60-day money back guarantee, so there's no issues there. So again, we appreciate your time and effort. Thanks, Roger, for an amazing presentation and incredible information. And I know all the attendees, when they get the support guide, are going to be working through that real quickly.
Great. Well, thank you, guys. We really appreciate it.
All right, signing off. Thanks, everybody. Bye now.